Awesome. What's up, everybody? So that was my intro video that I made myself on Canva, and I've been trying to start sharing that at the beginning of every episode because it's kind of cool. I am the Ancient Ninja, and we're back for another episode of Structure. If you have been kind of following my podcast, all 100 and whatever of you, which isn't very many, but we follow ourselves here. So you know that I started doing interviews, and I've been interviewing a couple different cool people. I got the opportunity to interview a presidential candidate last week, and we will be doing our second part. We've been having some scheduling issues, but that's going to be coming up. So be sure to go to theancientninja.com, where I have a lot of that stuff up there. I have my videos posted. I did self-publish a poetry book called Soul Good. It's a collection of what I call soul poetry. So if you're interested in getting that, that's available on Amazon. And then you can just follow me on all streaming platforms at theancientninja.com. So today I'm really excited to have a special guest here today. I came across her a few weeks ago, and I was just like blown away by how impressive she is. She actually works with plant medicine and many other things, which she'll get into. But I just really wanted to bring her on and have her share her knowledge. She has a lot of ancient knowledge as well. So without further ado, guys, please meet Miss Heather Jones. Hi.
Hello. Thank you, Elle, for that beautiful introduction. I'm Heather Jones. I'm an herbalist and a farmer here in Wyoming. Been full-time. Well, Enchantment Creek, my apothecary, my business, was born about 5 years ago. I think we're in year 5. But I've been working with plant medicine for just shy of 20 years. Mindfulness, meditation, food as medicine practices, all of the things. So I'm really happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think it's so impressive how you make all of these things. You not only farm them organically, but you also like make them you pull them and you make them. And so like you put so much energy into everything you do. Do you want to kind of tell people your process of how you got started with this, and what kind of, besides obviously you being a generational healer and you having this in your just kind of like genetics, what got you started with this?
Oh yeah. What is it? So I think my story is pretty classic for a person who went into alternative healing. I guess really it's traditional healing. I'm trying to change my words because it is traditional healing. It's not alternative. It's the way. So I got into it because I was sick of fighting with the pharmaceutical industry. My mother, we were raised going to the doctor for all the things. I was highly antibiotic as a kid. We ate really well because I grew up with my grandparents living with them. So we ate really well. Like everything was homemade, but it was like non-fat and margarine and stuff like this. And then the doctor whenever we were sick slightly. So it was, my upbringing was not of this at all, even though, like I said, we grew a lot of our own food at home. My grandma canned everything. But it was done of the generation of afraid of fat and afraid of all the things that were like buzzwords because of high cholesterol or heart disease or what have you. So that was my upbringing, like some natural stuff, and to the earth stuff, but also a lot of pharma and chemical food and all of this. So fast forward to around probably 19, 20 years old, I was having some really chronic, like truly chronic, over probably, it was a probably 2-year journey. And I'm kind of embarrassed it took that long, but I was a little baby. And I was doing the right thing, going to the doctor. And they were every single month, I would go to the doctor and they would give me the exact same protocol. And me having the personality I have, which is very assertive, very rebellious type, like not afraid to question authority, I was like, this is not working. There has to be something else. And I shared with the doctor, like, oh, I feel that, maybe this has something to do with this issue, or what I'm eating has something to do with this issue. And I've done a little research and this is making sense to me. And she literally told me that was impossible. And I said, well, if that is how you feel and you're going to keep giving me the exact same protocol every month, no, thank you. And I walked out of that doctor's appointment and I have not been back since.
Wow.
Yeah. So I dove completely in. I reversed that chronic issue I was having in about 4 months with food, I did take a ton of supplements, like micronutrients and stuff, just because that felt correct at that time. And like I said, I was a little baby budding herbalist nutrition person. So I took a ton of supplements, but I started going to the grocery store and shopping the perimeter at 20 years old. Like that, I started doing those things. So the upbringing of my grandma cooking everything from scratch, but then, bringing that into my 20-year-old kitchen, it's what shifted everything. And I'd say sometime in this journey of rebalancing my health, I was at a half-price bookstore and I saw, like, across the store, it was like a moment I can literally go back to in my mind. And it's like this book just was like, oh, it lit up. And I went over to this book and it was Michael Moore's Medicinal Plants of the Pacific Northwest. And I was born and raised in Washington State. And I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it, because it was seriously a moment. And I was
like, a big moment in your journey.
What? Yeah. Medicinal like plants as medicine, excuse me. And again, I'm the type of human who, like, when I find something that my body, my mind, and my joy comes out, my heart's excited. Even from that young age, I was like, this is it. I had refused college. I had gone and gotten my, was getting a license for esthetician work. So doing skincare, and all of that, like, really melded into what I'm doing now. It's really wild. So, because as an esthetician, when you're training, they teach you about ingredients. And so pairing the plant medicine, pairing this knowledge of ingredients and like the FDA, I realized how corrupt everything was then. And I feel bad for those esthetician teacher at the school, because I was like such a pain in the butt. Because I questioned everything. I challenged everything from what they were teaching me. So, wow. Yeah, that's where it all started. And it has gone from there. I've worked on farms. I've made medicine for other companies. I've had tons of gardens. I have wild harvested for other companies, and myself, of course, always bringing it back to the house too. Like the home apothecary has been stocked for this whole time, right? So and then I knew that I was a buyer at a health food store for quite a while for herbs and supplements, got really into what is a real supplement, what is a nasty supplement, and like totally separating those things. And And that was really good because I knew I wanted to open a product line. And so I kind of had the retail side that I was studying at that time, watching how a wholesaler interacts with the retail and the customer. And so I kind of was, taking notes during that time. And then I met my husband and I moved up to the farm and opened my business. So that's kind of fast forwarding a lot, but it's been amazing. And I'm always like, wow, I have a hard time believing that it's working, because like all throughout this journey of family, friends, etc., were like, oh, good luck with that, you little hippie, right? Like out in the forest. Because think 20 years ago there was health food stores, but they were like hidden in a corner over here, and like there was gluten-free wasn't a thing. The internet was barely a thing. Like I was doing all of this before the health food and nourishment and herbs and supplements really took off. And people were like, you're what? Like they just couldn't comprehend what I was dedicating my life to, and that it was actually going to be a thing. And I look back and I'm like, I'm really glad my personality was so intact to just keep going forward. So I'm really grateful for that all the time.
That's so incredible, and there's so much to unpack there. So, it like
So,
when you first were talking about your journey as a child and then like growing up with like kind of all the things that you experienced, like, having to go to the doctor, and then you kind of got to the point when you said around 20, where you really started being like, the doctor is not giving me the right kind of medicine that I need. I know I need something else. That's where like I really, really see that you're definitely a generational healer, because you have that ability in you to kind of know like, this isn't right for me, and I know this isn't right for me. And that's something that people will always make fun of, because if they don't understand that intuition, that natural healer intuition, it's
yeah,
so foreign to them. So their first reaction is to like just make fun of it and say that it's not real and it's not true. They call it pseudoscience, things like that. And it's
totally.
so incredible that you were confident enough to say, I don't really care. I know what I know. I know that I'm right. And then you went further to do research and find that out. And I think that it's so important people do that. Like, trust your intuition. If you see something and you're like, I don't think this is good for me, you should probably trust your gut and know that that's
Yes.
not good for you, because your body's telling you. It knows more than you do, essentially.
Actually, absolutely, Ellen. You said it. You said it right there. Your body is telling you. Our bodies are divine beings. Like every cell in our being is from Creator, and we come from that place of just knowing. And we come here to this material, dense realm of Earth, and that gets convoluted. And yeah, I thank you for honoring that, because it's been a wild ride, and it still is. Like it still is. It's not like it's easy and I have it all figured out, but like I think we're trained to not listen to that, to not
Oh,
listen to our
absolutely.
bodies. And that's what
Absolutely.
we're witnessing that on a large scale, and that coming to a total head of people are really waking up right now. And it is an awesome, terrifying, wild, amazing time to be alive, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all those things.
And I wanna get into too to that like we talked about for some of the ancient mechanisms of this, because, and I've said this before in some of my videos, they glorify mental illness but condemn mental abilities. And they make it look like you can be mentally ill and it's like a part of your character. But when you have mental abilities and you're psychic or you're tapped in, you're very divinely, like, you are clearly a very powerful healer that can understand plants, which is something that not everybody can do, right? Like, we all do have this innate ability within us to communicate with Earth, but there are people that are better at certain things than others. And you're obviously someone that's so good at plant medicine. And you kind of mentioned something. You made a comment, which I'm taking notes, by the way. That's why I'm like looking down.
Cool.
You
I love
mentioned
it.
that there are supplements that I can tell which ones are real and which ones are not. So when you're
Yeah.
kind of doing that, what do you look for to differentiate?
Yeah. So thank you again. And really, um, it's always learning. Like I never stop learning. And that is the drive, and that is the exciting piece, is like I've been disillusioned of a whole bunch of my herbalist training, formal and informal, over the last year and a half, really, like, I have been disillusioned by a lot of stuff in that framework. And then it's creating this whole other component of my work, and I'm watching it grow. And that's, I think I fully agree with you that everybody has the capacity to hone in their intuition, to hone in on their craft, whatever that may be, when you can listen, when you can quiet yourself, and the confidence too. We all have the ability to connect to what we are, which is divine and the creator and the ethereal realms. Like, that is innately in our being. I fully believe that. And we all have a place where that fits more perfectly in our own life. So I just want to speak to that real quick. When it comes to supplements, like, I buy FDA standards. So my apothecary is federally compliant is what the word is. I'm managed by the state of Wyoming. I am a dietary supplement manufacturer. That is a huge umbrella of, everything from tablets to capsules to powders, herbal extracts, even like liquid like chlorophyll or what have you, probiotics, everything. Even some like fermented foods like kombucha, they have dietary supplement regulations because they're adding herbs and stuff like this. So
Government has to regulate everything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that's the whole, I will not go totally down that, but I'll touch on it a little bit, like with the supplements. So I was I said in the beginning of my journey, I took a ton of supplements and I just bought what was ever the cheapest because I was 20 and could not afford more, right? So I just bought whatever I could buy. Later, I started really reading ingredients on every single thing that I purchased or put in my body or my family's body now for now. I am very mindful of the ingredient list. And that goes back to my esthetician training all those years ago, looking at the ingredients. Like, it's very distracting to see the supplement facts or even the calorie panel on a piece of boxed food like substance. It's very distracting to see that caloric intake and, the RDA of recommended daily allowance of this nutrient, that nutrient, saturated fats, trans fats, etc. But none of that really matters, because what really matters is what is making those calories, what is making those nutrients, and that is the ingredient list. So you go a step further, and what I was finding is like, okay, sure, we see like vitamin C in the form of ascorbic acid. Well, ascorbic acid is at best isolated from true vitamin C from like rose hips or citrus or bananas even, or,
Wow.
Stuff like this. So at best, ascorbic acid in a bottle is isolated from the full package of vitamin C that you find in nature. At worst, ascorbic acid is made in a lab and is synthetic form of that natural isolated compound of vitamin C. Okay. Yeah, it's nuts. Ascorbic acid is the only label, like, allowed to be labeled as vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is the only form of vitamin C that the FDA recognizes as vitamin C. Okay, like, it's nuts. I know. I'm like trying not to laugh because it's just, your face is awesome, and it's like, excuse me. So let me back up a little bit, because vitamin C in a fruit is about, it's 10 to 12 different molecules that form the vitamin C. Ascorbic acid, just like all sorts of other things, there's tons of nutrients, but I love vitamin C because it's easy to digest. Someone decided that ascorbic acid, in all this list of compounds that nature made vitamin C to be, okay, ascorbic acid is the one ingredient that some scientist somewhere decided was the only thing that was vitamin C. So then they take the one thing that this scientist said is the only active compound the only effective compound of this beautiful nature-made encapsulation. Nope, just ascorbic acid. So the FDA is like, cool, we can say ascorbic acid is vitamin C. And like, I have a rose hip oxymel. Rose hips are insanely highly concentrated in vitamin C. I cannot say that there's vitamin C in my rose hip oxymel because it doesn't have a synthetic or isolated form of ascorbic acid only. So then I get to talk about all this stuff on my blog and talk about this on, all the places I'm active online to clients when I'm face to face with them, etc. I get to talk about this whole idea of what ascorbic acid is and what vitamin C is, because it's different. But then on a supplement label, vitamin C on the supplement facts, vitamin C, parentheses, in the form of ascorbic acid. So that is incredibly misleading unless you understand all of what I just said and just have that in your brain, right? Like, everyone, do we all need to be walking around with that information in our brains? No.
And most people don't.
No, and like, I don't think it should be a necessary component of existing. I believe that, like, okay, people find me, other herbalists who are talking about this, and then they can say, oh, well, I learned from a trusted source, from a human being who's practicing, that that's not exactly the case. And then you start looking deeper and you find food-made supplements that are, oh, there's a proprietary blend of, sea greens. And then it says there's kelp and there's spirulina and all these other sea greens. Nowhere on that label is it going to tell you how much vitamin C is in there, but in your head, and that beautiful blend of greens from the ocean is incredibly powerful to your health. So you say yes to that, and you say no thank you to the ascorbic acid vitamin C that's the correct amount for RDA, the correct amount for your body for a daily allowance of vitamin C. Like, you say no thank you to that and trust that nature has your back covered. So that's
I love that.
I know it's a lot like to handle, and I hope I made it concise because it's a lot.
We won't get too far down this rabbit hole because we kind of don't want to even give them that attention. But when it comes to the things that are regulated federally, supplements, food, everything, it is so corrupted. It is designed to keep us sick. I mean, you go to a doctor and doctors, and I mean, bless their hearts. I understand some doctors have this thing where they can't keep their license. I mean, there's a whole legality thing about it, but you will never hear a doctor say the things that you're saying that are coming out of your mouth. And it's like this big pink elephant in the room that's unspoken about with all of our food, all of our supplements, the jabs, everything like that, that is so terrible for us. And yet there's nothing, right? I mean, you see commercials on TV, you would think if they want a society that is very healthy, that is like running great and going to create a good world, that most of these things that are regulated as good by the FDA would not even be legal. And then you have things that I see that the FDA doesn't even want to regulate or touch, or they say that you shouldn't use, and it's actually good for you. So it's like this topsy-turvy way of like operating. And kind of to your point earlier, people have just kind of accepted it almost to the point where they're brainwashed. And when you try to go against that narrative or push against it, they're like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? A doctor said this. And I think we see in the past few years, especially, I would rather trust someone like you than I would a doctor who's medically regulated with their license, because they're being paid to say a certain thing versus you, who you're being spoken to in a divine way. You're also doing the research and you're willing to put out these products that are actually good for you versus the opposite, which we know is not the same.
Yes, and there's like, the doctors that I've been really flocking to are the ones that are getting censored and the ones that are losing their licenses, because those are the people that are speaking the truth, and there's only so much I can say to a client on my labels, etc., because then they're like, oh, you're practicing my medicine without a license, and that's like that's like a federal offense. I could be totally annihilated, but I feel very comfortable as long as it's not on my labels. I am like, well, I am speaking what I know is in the research. It's all there. And there's always that argument. I hear that argument all the time. Well, you can research anything you'd like and you can find whatever answer you want. True. And what do you feel is correct in your body? And what are you willing to accept from, like, okay, this study was funded by the people who don't want you taking that. They want you taking what they're selling. So it's a lot of, the corruption is like, I always thought it was at this like a level, but it is like, you can't even quantify it. It's so crazy.
It
It's
is
so
crazy. And like you said, it's an industry that is profiting off of your sickness. So like they essentially don't want, I mean, I have a video about microwaves, something as simple as microwaves that have been out forever, that they hold conferences about this, Heather, how microwaves literally give you cancer, they're killing you. And every place uses microwaves. They're always promoted. Nobody's outlawing microwaves, and they're horrible for you. Yeah.
I finally got my husband this year to throw his microwave away. We've been together 6 years.
Yay!
And I finally got it out because, like, okay, yeah. All
so
the things.
I want to hear your thoughts on, because you have so much knowledge, and I want to kind of get through some of it with like some ancient stuff. So I was researching before this, which this is kind of stuff I've looked up a little bit before, but I wanted to make sure I brush up on it when I talk to you. It's very interesting that the pharmaceutical industry has only been around since 1860 or 1885. Yep. And it was established when they started creating pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. And obviously there's a whole thing that goes into that. But ancient herbalism has been around. Archaeologically, they found evidence that has been around since the Paleolithic age. And the first written evidence was in the Sumerian text, which kind of goes in an Anunnaki and all this kind of stuff. But obviously, plant medicine is so ancient. So what are some of your thoughts on that and things that you know about ancient herbalism that you can kind of give and go into?
Yeah, there's a lot of directions, and I love that component. There's a lot of modern medicine, and I do want to say, like, real quick, there's a time and a place for Western medicine. Like, emergency medicine is that's a huge gift, right? Because emergencies like that back in the day, like, people died a lot from that kind of stuff. So it's like there's a time and a place, but for your daily vitality, for your longevity, taking that into your home and into your own power is really, that is the good stuff, right? And that's your food, that's your herbs, that's your spiritual practices, all the things. And you're exactly correct. Ever since there's been life on this planet, there has been plants, and there have been people who have been working with plants as food, as medicine, in ceremony for spiritual enlightenment. I'm not going to speak a lot to it, but this God particle that scientists are finding, like with CERN and stuff, I don't even want to go there because I don't know enough, but I know enough to say the God particle that they're finding, that they're pointing to, that's in our bodies, is in a lot of these like enlightening plants, right? And that's just like so amazing. The best part is these indigenous cultures who have been working with these enlightening plants knew that without having to point to it as a molecule, right? They just knew. And these people, the indigenous cultures, that especially the ones who are still intact, which they are very much alive and present and thriving, they just know they're connected to the earth still. They're connected to that divine flow of information that comes through from the heavens into their grounded feet, and they're able to like really interpret that through their bodies. And that is where you can talk to plants. You can talk to your ancestors. You can talk to all of the divine knowledge and the ancestral knowledge that's in your bones when you are really just like grounded and connected to that portal that is coming from the heavens and down in through the earth and up through the earth into your body, out into the heavens again. It's a constant flow. And the intact indigenous cultures who are presently alive and thriving on this planet are like the living example of what was burned out of us coming out of Europe, right? what happened to the Native Americans here, all of that is like, that's a destruction of your intuitive connection via trauma. And such enraging, gnarly trauma that it's like, it's really hard to sift through all that darkness, all that shadow work, to then tap into the divine being that you are. It's not that it's impossible. It's just very, very, it can be very, very difficult. But when we get into that body, that quiet, subtle body, we can remember things like my family, my bloodline. My mom worked in the pharmaceutical industry. Like, is that healing? Maybe,
Wow.
maybe. To some people, that is deep healing. But I don't know where any healers were, etc. in my bloodline. We were farmers and ranchers, and I'm sure I've never done that test, that DNA test, because it freaks me out. Having my DNA in some library somewhere, right? I cannot deal with that. It's never felt correct, even though I played with the idea a few times. I will say that, just to find out, like, are there healers in my line? I don't know. We're Welsh, Irish, Norwegian. So that's like what's in my blood. And all I know is that area was very saturated with shamanic practices, medicine women, herb practices that are ancient. The word shaman actually comes from Scandinavia. Like, it's a deep Scandinavian word. That's where shaman came from. So I love that. And there are two plants that I know of. Not that I know of, that there's lots more plants, but like these two plants that stick out the most to me. One is a fungi and one is a plant. So start with the plant, fireweed. Fireweed is a plant that grows all over the northern continent of the world. And what I love is that people in Siberia, people in, people in the Yukon, people in the continental, United States down here, all over the world, the indigenous cultures worked with fireweed in pretty much the same way. They harvest it when it was almost in flower. They rolled it to make a really nice fermented tea, and then they ingested it throughout the winter. All of these cultures that way before technology were not connected to each other, they were working with this plant in the same way. The fungi that I am thoroughly obsessed with is Amanita muscaria mushrooms, fly agaric mushrooms.
Wow.
This mushroom also has been revered by many, many, many tribal people in the past and present for connecting to the divine. And we have been told that that is the most poisonous mushroom on the planet, and that's simply not true.
What?
Why have we been told that? Like, okay, so when you start to look at it from that perspective, like, okay, a plant that we love and work with all the time, and lots of herbalists know, especially wild harvesting herbalists, that's a beautiful plant. It's full of quercetin, it's full of vitamin C, highly anti-inflammatory. When you ferment a plant, all of the nutrients in that plant go up. They are enhanced, and the amounts go up by up to 40 to 60%. So you're taking the vitamin C that's in there, the quercetin that's in the plant, and then you're creating much more when you ferment it. So all of these tribes all over the world ancestrally have been doing that with this plant, and they're vibrant and healthy, right? Fly agaric mushroom, Amanita muscaria, has been worked with by shamans to the people of the tribe to have an enlightening experience.
And it's deemed poisonous?
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Very. And it's cool because there's a lot of revival around this mushroom right now. It's the red mushroom cap with the little white splotches. The Mario mushroom is what it looks like. There's been a lot of people who are actually ingesting it and sharing about their experiences. I have worked with it internally, and it is not a psychedelic like psilocybin, but it is something very different and very soul level. And like, disclaimer, people, don't go and try this mushroom. You have to create a relationship with it, or you're going to have a really crappy experience. So like, but if you want to find the research and the people who are working with it, it's out there and it's available. So there's a lot of people who are tapped into this ancestral knowledge and reviving it, because it's what we all need right now. We need to be reconnecting with spirit, with our ancestors, because all of this lives in our bones. Our ancestors are in our bones. Therefore, they're in our body. We can tap into them. So I think
Absolutely.
I'm all over the place there, and I'm sorry, but
No, don't be sorry. I'm loving it, and I'm learning so much. And awakening the ancient, I think, is such an important part of our journey going forward, because
yes,
we can have protests and we can have people on the internet doing podcasts and we can have people saying all these truths. But unless we as a collective spiritually awaken the ancient and fully get back on that kind of track, it's really not going to make any progress. And you,
yeah,
when you were
yeah,
mentioning earlier that, like, talking about kind of the indigenous people and the connection to plants, I think it's very interesting that plants within their structure match our biological structure. Like
yeah,
trees match our veins, and like certain ways that plants are made, they match the way that we are actually built internally. And
yes,
that's very interesting within itself.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's amazing, and it just, to me, illustrates more and more how we are nature. There's no separation between human beings and nature. There's a fabricated separation, that modern Western, especially Western society, has tried to and successfully enveloped a huge portion of the population, but it's not it's only a reality if you decide to have it be a reality.
And kind of like you said, a lot of more people are returning to that. I mean, I just moved from the city out here into the mountains, and it really is like the society that's being built is trying to keep us from nature. I mean, it's trying to keep us inside video games, TV. You don't really see kids even outside playing anymore. Like that's almost like a thing of the
Seriously.
past now,
Yeah.
which I know you as a mother, you're going to make sure that's a huge component of your child's life, is
Oh,
like
yeah.
being so connected with the earth. Have you seen that test where it was like this test where they did where they had two plants that were the same kind of plant, same kind of health, and one of them they talk very negatively to, and the other one they talk positively to, and it proved that just the vibe, because obviously, and I'm sure you know this, the way we speak has everything's vibrations.
Yes.
Everything's a vibration, everything's an energy. And when you're talking negatively, it's a lower vibration, and when you're talking positively, it's a higher vibration, and that directly correlated into the plants.
Yeah, for sure. And it does. And I see that with my son, who he's 18 months old. So he's just a little guy. He's starting to figure out how to communicate, but boys like to make sounds and noises more than they want to say words. It's really funny. But I notice, like, when I'm having a hard time mothering, or I'm having a hard day just in general, he's affected by that. And that's that. He doesn't know, but the vibration of me is affecting him. And it's very clear when you have little children, and animals too, I think, because they're all affected very much by vibration. And just to gear this back to plants, what I've loved seeing is when if Sawyer, my boy, gets sick or is having bad dreams. He has bad dreams. He's very sensitive to the sun and the moon and the stars and all the astrological happenings. And when I give him herbs during those times, when we work with plants with him, he bounces back so quickly.
What are some
And
things you
it's
give
like,
him, like as a baby?
okay,
What do you kind of give him?
yeah, I was pretty nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, just because, and I am embarrassed to say that, but I was pretty nervous. And I feel like a lot of that conditioning was my conditioning with, like, oh, children, oh, there's no studies, oh my God. And yeah, you need to know what you're doing, and you need to know what plants are good, but plants are really, really effective for the babies, and the simple plants like chamomile, rosemary. I've used some OSHA root for him, which is a pretty active plant. I waited till I think he was 8 months old when I first did OSHA, elderberry, ginger, all sorts of things. And when we disillusion ourselves, again, that word is like so good for me right now. When we disillusion ourselves from the fear narratives on every level that we can like find them, the answers are very clear and simple, and we have them in our gardens, we have them in our pastures, we have them in sidewalk cracks in the city. You know, like we have all of the answers everywhere.
And your motherly intuition. I mean, I think
Oh
so
my
many
gosh.
mothers, which I'm not a mother, so I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm going to go against what mothers who are having children, but I do see a lot of mothers go against their own intuition. And I mean, again, we won't fall down the rabbit hole, but you have doctors literally telling people to inject little tiny babies with these chemicals. And so if someone's watching this and they're triggered by the fact that you give your child herbs, I would challenge you to really think about the like logic of that.
Well, yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to me just on a logical scale to inject a small child with chemicals versus I'm going to give them natural plants
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
come from the earth. Do you have
Totally.
some stuff for sale in your store that's for babies?
I don't, because that, again, like liability wise, it's pretty big. But when I'm working with a client or a customer and I know them, I'm going to talk to them about what I do for sure. I don't say, none of my remedies say anything about children on them, just because I'm not willing to touch that. I'm small, like, you know, that's all there is to it. But Wish Garden Herbs is an awesome company. I don't agree with everything that they do. Glycerin does not extract plant material chemicals. I don't care what they say. But they have a really extensive children and baby line. So, you know, like they're a large company. They're in Whole Foods all across the country. So there are herbs available for children, and I agree. I love the meme. Freaking memes right now are so good. But I love the meme that is like, oh, when your doctor tells you to introduce a food to your baby, one food at a time, and then they inject them in the same sentence with 9 pharmaceutical drugs. And it's like, that to me, because herbs are food and food is medicine, all that is so true in every facet of my being. Like, that contradicts, like, what are you even saying? Like, food, introduce one food at a time, but then you're going to inject them with 7, 8, whatever babies get. I don't know.
Many now. So many that they, I mean, even, and I think you can attest this just because I think you did a natural home birth, didn't you?
Yes.
From what I see, yeah. And that's the best way to do it, because the birthing process alone is designed to make your child from the beginning be addicted to the system,
Yes.
just from everything they do, from them simply handling the baby, the white rooms. I mean, all of the spiritual components, which people can be like, it's not that big of a deal. Everything is a big deal. Everything's connected. From that, just as soon as you come out of the womb, you are being conditioned from the moment you come out of the womb.
Well, and there's trauma too there. Like, birth is a whole other rabbit hole, and like,
yeah,
you're exactly correct. Trauma responses with a mother and baby when they're first born, they are like, mother is born too. And I have a midwife that I work with, and she is licensed, but she is also very, she knows that birth is sacred. She is not authoritative over me. She knows when an actual true emergency, which are insanely rare, true emergencies in birth are insanely rare. There are tons of emergencies that are fabricated with drugs and pharmaceutical interventions, and in hospital settings with,
that's not talked about enough.
Like, that is so triggering for people. I get it. People go crazy to my face. Like, they're like, weren't you afraid you and your baby were going to die? And I'm like, I'm afraid my baby and I are going to die in the hospital more than I am. And my midwife tucked me and my baby into bed, to my bed. Like, No, I was not afraid I was going to die.
Oh my gosh. And the thing is people need to get triggered. You need to get uncomfortable
Yeah.
because that's when you're going to start really growing and understand. I mean, it does suck to know like everything you believed in a lie is a lie,
Oh, yeah,
but it's so
totally.
essential to have that moment, just like you comfortably fell into it. Like, you
Yes.
know, but a lot of people don't.
A lot. Yeah. And like, you do have to be okay with your mind being blown. Even I'm in the process of that right now. Like, I'm about to get a couple more certificates to add to my list because I have been disillusioned by a lot of my training regarding viruses, what actually makes us sick. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I supposed to put this into my work? I'm figuring it out. But it really isn't. What I'm figuring is like the simplicity of it. Food, which are, animal fats and proteins, vegetables and herbs, that's food. Food paired with activity, paired with spiritual connection, creates an entire being which is vibrant and healthy. And I fully believe the divine creator intended us to be in perfect alignment and health. The crap that we're fed, whether that's via food or drink or what we watch, consume media wise, that is what makes us sick.
Oh,
And
1000%.
that's been really hard for me, but because I'm a 20-year herbalist trying to I have to shift because of my commitment to my integrity. I have to shift how I'm talking about the herbs and how I'm applying the herbs. And that's like, talk about being triggered like that. If I could just get mad, I could just get mad at these people who I'm like, my body is telling me that it's correct, but my brain is like, no, that's not what we were taught. That's not what
You
we
have
were
to go
told.
against
That's not
it.
what about all this? Well, that's how we continue to grow as human beings. And it is hard and it is gnarly and it's not fun. And like the what if factor is totally there. But what I've come to realize through these new teachings that I am allowing myself to be disillusioned by, it's like a whole new and exciting component of my work as an herbalist. And it's like, sweet, I get to like start a new journey 20 years deep. Why is that a bad thing? We can all do that. So the age of information where we're in, it's like it's available. So go.
And that's
Learn
what
new things.
that's what you have to do. And like the kind of to your point where you just said about everything's kind of conditioned to keep us in this level. Like even the news, all the things that we're watching, consuming, it's all keeping us in this survival mode. And I had this revelation the other day where I was like, what truly makes humans different from like other animals? And somebody could say consciousness or any of these things, but we do see consciousness in other animals. We do see some of the smartest animals in the world who also have consciousness. So I'm
Yes.
thinking, what is it? And I thought, well, it's because every other animal that exists, they flourish in survival mode. That's like the top tier of how they exist. For humans, that's actually the bottom level of how we
Yes.
exist. Survival mode is like the base of our divinity. We actually start flourishing when we get out of that survival mode. And in
Yes.
order to do that, we have to do exactly what you said. We have to just break down everything we've been taught because this world is designed to keep us in survival mode.
Right. And this, you're right. It blocks the survival mode just itself, blocks that ability to connect to the ethereal, the divine, the teachings that are in our bones. It totally disconnects us from that because fear puts us in that. I hate the term monkey mind, but that's truly what it that's a good depiction of what it is. When we're in that mode, we're just like, ugh, we're just going through the motions.
What's
Feeding
the thing, the
the
cave,
system.
Allegory's cave, which is kind of like a good example of that? It's a Greek thing where they see their own shadow, but they think it's others. They can't get out of the cave because they think it's others, but it's actually their own shadow.
Oh my
And
God,
so
I don't know this.
I believe it's monkeys. I think it's Allegory's cave.
Okay. You'll have to
Allegory's cave.
send me. I have not seen that, but it makes a lot of
Allegory
sense.
of the cave. Yeah, it's by Plato.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can send it to you after we get off here and you can kind of see
Yeah,
it.
I'd love to see it.
But it's basically what you just said, and it's kind of that same mechanism. It's this philosophical way of kind of looking at it. And I know, Heather, I know you're kind of limited on time because you got
Yeah,
your baby and stuff like that. So
thank
I real
you.
quick
Thank
want
you.
to share your page and kind of
Oh,
show people.
Thank you.
A little bit about you. So, as you see, I've been kind of linking her page on here. This is her main website with all of the things she has on there. She goes by Your Local Farm SC, which is pretty cool. Heather is stationed out here in Wyoming, which is where I've recently moved into the mountains. And she has so many incredible things on here. I mean, she has a whole entire herb shop where she has all of the things that she hand makes. And this is all really good stuff. I would urge anyone who's looking to really improve their health in this kind of natural, ancient way to invest into these kind of things. I need to invest into it myself. I've been looking on here waiting to get some stuff. Um, and I saw too, Heather, you have a retreat coming up. Is that true?
Yes, solstice weekend. It's kind of a first. I've done like retreats before, but this one is all herbs. It's in person. It's going to be here on the farm in the pharmacy gardens. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going to teach like all we've talked about today, the spiritual component, really tapping people into their intuition, really like listening to those ancestral whispers. Like that's the main goal. And you're going to, like the people that come, we're going to harvest medicine out of the pharmacy gardens. I have like 90 plant species, which is like, what? Okay. 90 different plants growing, perennials and annuals. So we're going to make tinctures from alcohol, and we're going to make tinctures from vinegar. Those are the two menstruums I work with, solvents. I do also have a fermented line that's coming out. That's a whole other iteration, but it's very exciting. So I feel like the fermentation, like just go back to the ancestral stuff real quick. The fermentation is how we originally were working with plant medicine, and I feel that it's so powerful because it's really enlivening the plant. But anyway, that will be another class. Back to the retreat, we'll do the tinctures, the extracts. You'll harvest all the plant material you want, really is fine. We're going to do plant identification. So we'll do the shade gardens, and then we'll do the full sun gardens and the greenhouses. And then we're going to learn to make a fresh plant material oil extract. Most people will tell you that making fresh plant material in an oil is impossible, and that is crap. My teachers taught me how to make it fresh. I see it all the time that like, oh, you absolutely can use fresh plant material, and you absolutely get a better medicine with fresh plant material. So I'm going to teach everyone here how to make a fresh plant material oil extract, a medicinal body oil that is so therapeutic and effective to your spirit body and your physical. It will be mind-blowing. And my apprentice is an excellent chef, and she is going to cook farm fresh meals, snacks. She's making some mead for the retreat right now. Ooh. Like all sorts of goodness. There's going to be like fire circle stuff in the nighttime. We'll do a little solstice ceremony. We'll probably braid some sweetgrass because I have tons of sweetgrass. We're going to do all the plant things that happen at the high solstice, high summertime, and I am so excited.
I have that link below too. So
thank you all.
Video, and I'll be promoting it for you as well. I think that is so incredible, and it's just that's how you can tell you're the real deal, because you're not afraid to teach it. You don't have to go to school and get a degree for this. No. You don't have to put 9 years and pay tons of money. No. Obviously, there's a little bit of money you have to pay to come to a retreat, but it's not something you have to put all this time into. And Heather is willing to teach you her knowledge, which just shows that you're the real deal, because the real deal people are willing to share their knowledge. They don't keep it kept.
Right. No. Which I love teaching. Great. I love teaching so much. I can riff on plants forever. I just love them. And this is the people's medicine. Like, it's yours. It's mine. It's everybody else's, every being on the planet. And it is our it's our birthright to know this stuff.
It is. And I can't agree with that more. So before I do our closing remarks and Heather let you kind of say what you want, I wanted to real quick show you this allegory of the cave.
Yeah.
So it's Plato's allegory of the cave, which applies so much to here. So it's the effect of education and the lack of it on nature. In the allegory, Plato describes people that have spent their lives chained in a cave facing a blank wall. They watch shadows projected onto the wall, passing in front of a fire behind them, and they give names to these shadows. The shadows are the prisoner's reality, but not accurate representations of the real world. The
Wow.
shadows represent the fragment of reality that we can normally perceive through our senses, while the objects under the sun represent the true form of objects that we can only perceive through reason. And then it goes into like talk about the higher levels of, mathematics, natural science, which is touching in on exactly what you talked to. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's basically like kind of a philosophical way of
I
seeing
love it.
exactly what you're saying, that Socrates touched on, which is an incredible. He's my favorite philosopher of all time. Um, it kind of touches on the fact that we're so separated from it, but all that's separating us is this illusion
Right.
that we've been
That,
fed.
yeah.
There's not actually
Yeah.
anything tangible.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That's awesome. Thank you, Elle. That's beautiful. Like, yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. And if you ever want to look at it, it's a small book that Plato has. Like I think it's like 10 or 12 pages. It goes into it more, but
Okay.
it's a good way to kind of maybe it's something you can read at your retreat or have people kind of talk
Yeah.
about. And it's a good
Oh, it'd be great.
philosophical way to kind of come at it.
Yeah.
Um,
Big fire circle thing.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's read some
Yeah.
Plato. So is what else? Is there anything you want to tell anybody? I've got everything linked below. They can find you. But is there anything else you want to let
Thank
people
you.
know? Are you having a sale or anything like that, or any
Um,
other way that people can find you if they have questions? If we have some moms that watch this and they have some questions for you about your methods.
yeah. I mean, the easiest place to get in touch with me is through my website. So enchantmentcreekherbs.com. I'm also super active on Instagram. I'm at Enchantment Creek. And I'm in my DMs a lot because I, share a lot of this stuff raw on my stories, and people get really excited, or they, I'm okay if people want to come at me with challenges that they have with this information. That's where the best learning comes on my part as well. So I'm cool with that. But my website and Instagram are the best places. The big thing that's happening this year is the retreat. And yeah, get in touch. I'd love to chat more about all of this. So yeah.
Amazing. Well,
Thank you.
it's been incredible talking to you, Heather. I could talk to you longer. I definitely have to meet you in person because we're so close. So we'll have to catch up. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
want to come and like honestly see your process because I just think it's so fascinating that you are a generational healer. And I know you dropped that like new age word a few times, but I am also someone that's healed my lineage. I had a very difficult
Yes.
upbringing. And so I'm kind of in the same position of you. Not plant medicine's not my thing, healing in that sense, but I heal with like kind of information and divine discernment and things like that.
Yes.
So yeah, I really admire the fact that you came from where you were and now you're just building up. And then also you have your own son who you're going to turn into probably an incredible healer
Yeah.
who's going to help with the masculine collective, which is a
Yes,
really big
please.
one. Yeah, it really needs because when you heal, one side heals one, we all heal each other. And that's just something that
Absolutely.
we do all good together, and people are so divided right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Thank you.
Guys, I will be posting the next round of my Shiva interview, so you guys can look out for that. Like I said, there's been some scheduling complications. He is running for president, so there's some scheduling issues with that. As you guys have been seeing, I've been more active on YouTube, trying to post more videos. I have tons of stuff that I want to talk about. It just takes time to upload, edit. I do it all on my own. So yeah, and as always, you can find me on theancientninja.com. I'm always there. I want to have on more people like Heather who just have this incredible divine knowledge. So if you're someone watching this and you have some things that you want to talk about that you really want to share, please hit me up because I'd love to talk to you. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great day. It's snowing out here in the mountains. I'm still going to go enjoy it. Might make
Yeah.
some ice cream because I have some snow ice that I can use with snow to make ice cream. I've been wanting to do that. So I
Nice.
might, I know, I was like, I need to use that.
I
Um,
love it.
but yeah, other than that, guys, I always sign off with the same thing. Keep it pointy.
Thank you all so much. It was amazing to chat with you.